Coach, I would say there's never a perfect time to face adversity, but can an argument be made that rivalry week is a time to kind of crystallize the vision and lock in a little bit because of quote-unquote stakes are higher right now?
Yeah, I think anytime you get in a situation where you're going against a rival, it kind of pulls guys together a little bit, grabs their attention. Not that they weren't together and didn't have their attention before, but I think it just kind of takes it a little bit to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you.
When I watch Michigan's offense, there's a lot of the little screens and sort of check downs and dig and duck kind of plays that, with tackling, with the problems you've had, it seems like that could be an issue. I know live tackling and things are limited, but how do you improve that aspect of your defense and just the tackling, the open field sort of stuff? What are the ways that you guys can correct that going into this game?
Well, first, don't let them get out there. Right? Tackling is about eliminating space, right? Space is the enemy of the defense. How do you do that? You set edges. That's one way, right? The second way you do that is you play with incredible effort. And then when you get to the point of attack, you got to trust low tackling. We're a low tackle operation, but in the last couple of weeks we haven't trusted it. And so we got to trust it. We got to do it. And so it was something that was a point of emphasis yesterday's practice, which is a heavy first and second down day for us. All the positions really hit that at the beginning of practice because if you try to go high on guys out in the space, your chances of success are much lower than if you go lower.
Where does that Indiana offense that you faced, where does that rank in terms of offenses you faced in your coaching career, and particularly with their ability to either get you short and underneath and then go over the top?
Yeah, I mean, it's very good. You know, it's hard to compare. You know, I think here's what I'll say for them. I think they're one of the more efficient offenses that we've defended. I think there might be some other offenses over the years that maybe had more explosive playmakers. They have good playmakers, don't get me wrong, but that was probably one of the most just efficient, where like they don't really make many mistakes and they take what you give them, and then the second you're not in the right spot, they exploit it. So that's how I would kind of classify them.
What was the message to the defense after the game as far as how you performed and what you see to be corrected?
Yeah, we made a cut up of all the corrections and we showed them by position, and then we talked about what we need to do to fix them, and then we kind of moved on, and and then we're able to kind of talk about, hey, what this week's going to be and the rivalry and all those things. So we turned the page pretty quick after we went through the corrections.
The offense is, I think, 6 scores on the first possession in 7 games.
Yeah.
I mean, how important would it be to get the stop to back that up and try to get a lead?
Yeah, we want leads and we want stops whenever they happen. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of, I agree with you, and so that's important for sure.
What did you see from Avion when he was in for the league?
Well, it wasn't so much from what we saw from when he was in, it was what we saw during practice, where he started to ascend and climb. And, obviously, I think we're not certainly pleased with the performances that we've been having. So what we've been doing is evaluating guys in practice who are consistently doing their job and doing it at a high level. And he was one of those guys who maybe at the beginning of the thing was lower on the depth chart, but has been consistent with his performance in practice, and so we wanted to reward that. And you're going to see that continue to be rewarded because there's the initial evaluation, but then there's the evaluation of game days. And so we want to put guys out there who are consistently in the right spot doing what they're supposed to do, and he did it, went in, performed solid, well, and so he'll continue to get reps.
The touchdown run that Indiana had at the end of the first half, more kind of what you saw in the breakdown of that.
Yeah, a guy ran off the field who wasn't supposed to. So then the safety had to go over and cover the guy that he didn't cover, and then we didn't have a safety in the run fit. They ran the play in the second half, and it got hit for 2.
So you were down 10?
We weren't down.
Ten?
There was 11 guys on the field, but
Okay.
they weren't in the right spots.
Gotcha.
Because one of the guys started to run and realized the ball was being snapped and turned around and ran back. So, yeah.
Coach, how difficult is it sometimes? You reference corrections, but to stay consistent with your routine and not change your routine, or do you have to have an open mind as far as evaluating what your day in, day out is when you have some challenges going on?
Yeah, well, I think you got to have a routine that has got you to where you are in terms of preparation, right? So There's that. I don't think any organization works well if there's constant change and no one has any idea of what it looks like, right? However, I think good organizations have the ability to be fluid, to change and alter things, and the ability to adapt. So I would consider it, there's structure, there's a way that we do things, a way that we prepare, but then based on what you see out of offenses and you see out of your guys, then you alter that to adapt, is how I would say.
Right, thank you.
You see that Grady's wife they had a kid over the weekend?
They did.
Okay.
They did. So he, and we've already addressed this in the meeting, he is officially has dad strength now. So like, those guys don't know it's a real thing until it happens, and then you just magically get smarter and stronger. So we expect to see that out of him. So but yeah,
is that a deal where he didn't make the trip with, you know, it being a thing where she could go into labor?
yeah, I mean, he can share the details as he wishes, but yeah, they were there. It was right at go time, and you know, and he did what he needs to do.
You ever had a guy go on paternity leave?
No, never have. I had to do it. I get flack from my wife about it all the time because we were getting ready for I want to say it was Ohio State, and like my wife was having the baby, and we went, and like I fell asleep. She was still up. I fell asleep, and because I had to be back in the office the next day because we had practice. So I had a 4-hour paternity leave.
Oh.
So you know, some people get weeks. I had 4 hours.
Oh my God.
So
What year was that?
2018.
18. Okay.
Yeah.
I wondered, looking back now at last year, how was it different facing Michigan on the Michigan State side versus any other, maybe Minnesota or any other programs? Did you feel anything different?
Yeah. So here, I've been in rivalries over the years, right? And I kind of talked to the defense about this. Is that, you know, at Teal we played Grove City, right? And at Allegheny we played Wittenberg, and at Maine we played New Hampshire, and we didn't really have one at Rutgers. But at Minnesota we had Wisconsin, right? And you come here and you play in this game, and this one trumps all those. It's just different. It means more to people in the state. It means more to the players, and it's more. There's more edge to it. So, not that those other ones weren't big ones, they were, but you know, you don't understand it until you play in the game. And so I think that was really a chance to see it and be around it and feel it last year, and now you kind of have a good sense of what it is.
Do you ever laugh about the fact that you've tried to go for 2 different Paul Bunyan themed trophies?
Yeah, I'd like to get the daily double. I'd like to get both of them. That would be nice. But yeah, it is kind of strange when you think about it that there's 2 trophies named the same thing. But this one would be huge.
Think about the quarterback, John, young guy, he's played a little bit now,
Yeah.
seems to have some ability.
I think he's got great size. I think he's got great arm strength. I think he's got great athleticism. I think he's getting better every week. He's got escapability. He can make throws all over the field because of his arm strength. So I think, you know, he's a guy that's gotten better every week, and I think highly of him. If we're going to play well on defense, we've got to do a really good job against him. So
To make them a little bit different challenge versus last year when they were kind of cycling through quarterbacks and the pass game was not as efficient, and you know, now they're, you know, not that they're lighting it up, but you know, there is more balance.
yeah, for sure. I mean, last year I think they had played 3 quarterbacks by that point, and so yeah, and they all were a little bit different, you know. So I think certainly they're more explosive and have had more success in the air. So
This is a week where, particularly when you have a true freshman in there, that you gotta, you know, you emphasize knocking him off the spot a little more, and not so much maybe dropping him more, but trying to get more of the pressure.
yeah, I mean, I think it's always, you know, important to be able to get a pressure on a quarterback, and from week to week, there's different ways to do it. There's different emphasis on it, and so, you know, we make those evaluations. I'm not going to get into, you know, exactly what we're kind of thinking, but I think anytime with a quarterback that you can create pressure, it's an advantage for the defense. So.
You know, see for them this year, is it still the run game though that's driving the whole thing?
Yeah.
When you look at it?
Yeah, and the run game's still very similar to what they were doing last year. They have certainly some new wrinkles, but you know, they are a physical team, and they run the ball, run a variety of different run schemes, and do it out of a bunch of different personnel groupings, and they do it out of some bigger personnel groupings than maybe most of the people in the league are doing right now, so they do a really good job with it.
You mentioned the run game, against Indiana. You mentioned, if you're not in the right spot, they can make you pay. Sometime in the last week or two, we've had situations in which players are not in the right spot, but it's not necessarily the players that began the year as starters. So as you try to get those players more and more tuned in, can you talk about the frustration level there, or the progress that needs to be made while keeping their spirits up? Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, so I mean, frustration, you know, you got to be careful with frustration as a coach, right? Because frustration doesn't allow you to be a good teacher. And so we all have a vision of what we want it to look like, and then there's how it actually looks, and then you've got to work really hard as a coach to get it to look how you want it to look. And yeah, there's been some guys in and out, but the expectation is still the same. And I think what we do is we just go to work to coach them and show them the pictures and talk to them about what they need to do. And the coaches positionally, and then me as the coordinator, that's kind of how we approach it. I think when you get frustrated, then you start acting in a way that's not conducive to being a good teacher. So.
And those inside linebackers, they're getting a lot of snaps and so forth. How would you rate their performance?
You know, it depends on the game, right? I think overall versus the run, I think, you know, Wayne and Jordan have done a very good job. There's a couple instances last week, a couple instances 2 weeks ago where I think we could have been better with some of our drops and our underneath zone coverage. So, you know, obviously this week, you know, the run fits are going to be really critical for those guys, but also, as someone had asked earlier, they're doing a good job of getting the ball out and getting it out quick, so the underneath zone is going to be really important.
Any particular podcast standing out to you right now, or messaging that you're kind of drawn to?
Yeah, I mean, as I'm working in the morning, it's always Diary of CEO, it's Joe Rogan, it's Andrew Huberman. Those are the guys I listen to on and back and forth from work. The big, I think the big message is just that you kind of take from it. I think it was, I listened to Rogan, and it was someone who talked about just making sure when things are hard, you stay true to who you are, and that you just continue to work, you know, and that was one that kind of stood out. And then there were some parenting ones, because I can always get better at those ones, but those ones are, I'm sure, not of interest to you.
All right, thanks, Coach.
You'd be surprised.